So how long after your mother had transitioned did you actually hear her?
I think the exact number is 19 days.
Right.
My daughter, named Autumn, had gone to my mother while she was in the last 2 weeks of her life and had said to her, "Nana, I hope when you get to heaven you can send me a baby because I haven't been able to get pregnant." And my mother said, "I think I can help you with that, dear." Those were her words. And about 2 weeks later, my daughter called me and said, 2 weeks after my mother passed, my daughter called me and said, "It's happened, I'm pregnant."
Wow.
Well, I had to pull over on the side of the road. I was so thrilled to hear this, and I jumped on an airplane as soon as I could because something just told me I had to just put my physical arms around my daughter. She lived in New York.
Yeah.
So during the ride to New York, I was looking out the window and thinking of her, looking at the beautiful, the clouds. It's so heavenly, such a sight. I love to fly. And I just thought in my mind, "Mother, is there any distance for you?" And my eyes were kind of filled up with tears. I just felt her essence existing in such a field of beauty like I was seeing. But it was like, "Is there any distance for you?" And I heard her voice say, "Not exactly, not the way you perceive distance." And I've got the word, the exact.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive, Awakening Consciousness with Karen Swain. I'm so delighted. I know I say this every show, but I mean it every show, but I mean it even more today. I'm so delighted to introduce you to Frances Rae Key, who is the scribe and the author of a series of books called The Team, A Mother's Wisdom from the Other Side. She scribed these books after her mother transitioned, left her physical form in 2010. Her mother was Gloria Crystal Teddy Key, and together they had a beautiful spiritual journey in the physical. And Frances had often said to her mother, "You really have to write down what you know, Mum." And later in her life, in her 80s, she said, "No, I'm too old now." But it's never too late. And she came to Frances after she transitioned from her physical body and spoke to her so much more. Welcome to the show, Frances. So excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Frances sent me a couple of the books, the first two, and I've been reading them and really I'm blown away at this material, absolutely blown away. The books have answered so many questions that I've had, and I have my connection to my own higher self or spiritual team or mob, I call them the mob, who speak through.
I love that.
The mob. I know, I gave them a prettier name, a few years ago. I call them blissful beings because they're very blissful, a collective stream of consciousness. And so I've had questions that I've not sat down and really received the information for. I've just thought, I wonder about that, and I wonder, but never really sought the answers. Like, I'll find out about that later. It's not that, but these books have just answered those and really expanded. They've expanded. They're amazing, really amazing. I can't rave about them enough, Frances. They're not for everybody because they're really for the spiritual seeker. They're really for the person who really is interested in the mechanics of life, of physical life, of spiritual life, who we are, why we've come. And not everybody is asking those questions. There are people at different levels seeking wisdom at different levels. I don't know if you call this a more expanded level or a higher level, but there's a lot of channeled material out there. And you know, when you read this material, it's so on point, because as a medium and a psychic, I can feel when the personality kicks in and when it's when it's channeled information, as channels speak or as they write. But every word that I read in these books, it's like I'm there talking to your mother in a higher dimension, like listening to her. So let's start out with a bit of your journey, Frances, and some, you know, I'd love to hear more about you and your mom. And
there's so much to say, isn't there?
When did you first start thinking about spiritual principles and asking questions? Was she, you know, thinking about that before you were born, and she introduced you to it? Mm-hmm.
She truly, well, first I want to say my mother was originally from Australia.
Yeah.
And that's why this particular show is so special to me. And she came to America during World War II.
Right.
She was raised Catholic, but she was very, very devout. She loved God. She loved spiritual matters. She loved truth. She loved people. She loved serving others. And so as she matured, she had so many questions, and the Catholic Church did not answer them for her, and she began to search. And she went to many different organizations and churches. She read all kinds of books, and she took me along with her. So from the age of about 5 until about 10, I was exploring things with her at whatever level I could do so. And I was listening to her and her love of truth, her love of God, her humility, her kindness, her classical music. Everything was very, very lofty in those years, raising my own thinking. And we ended up at a Unitarian church for a while. Then we she found a church called Ontology, which means the science of all being. And she raised me in this church. And it basically taught, I would say, it had a esoteric interpretation of Christianity, mm-hmm. and it also explored Eastern thought. Mm-hmm. So I was primed in this sense, and I was also very intuitive, very, if you want to call it, psychic as a young child. I had experiences that I'm so grateful I had a mother like that to explain what was going on. Mm-hmm. And as the years unfolded, we learned together, and we had some amazing experiences together of supernatural order along the way. So she was my spiritual teacher, mm-hmm. and my best friend and my mother. And because I'd had so many things in my life occur that were connected to people who had passed on and things of that nature, I fully believed I would have some kind of contact with her after she passed. Mm-hmm. But I never dreamed that it would take this form and be this intense, and produce such a large amount of material. There are 3 books, and another will be finished in the next few months. That's the final book. It's actually the compiling of the scores of handwritten papers that flooded through me. It has taken longer than to actually receive it, the editing and the compiling and the typing up and preparing. Mm-hmm. So the 4th book will be finished this year.
Wow. So when you were young, as many children do, did you not reach a point where you were, okay, this is what mum believes and this is what mum's taught me, but sort of rebel against the authority and sort of go off on your own and say, but I need to find these things out for myself. I don't want to just listen to my mother. I'm saying that from personal experience, of course. Yeah. But with my daughter, because every time I say, you know, I talk about the angels or the aliens or, you know, dead people, she rolls her eyes.
You know, I think what happened to me was because I was doing automatic writing at a young age, mm-hmm. and even at the age of 10 and 11, My mother had some friends, and we'd meet, and they would have me do automatic writing for them and receive messages and so forth. And what started to happen was I was having a lot of visual experiences, materializations, all kinds of things happening, and I started to get afraid. And by the time I was a teenager, because we were exploring and we really didn't have proper guidance with all that, I started to shut that down. I would not do automatic writing after a certain age. I think I deliberately closed off that very open connection to the other side for a period of time through my teens and a little bit into my 20s. And that was my form of rebellion, but it wasn't a rebellion against her or anything else. And it most likely, now that I look at my life, at one time, this message wrote out, "She is too much with us," referring to me as a child. And I think that was true. I think I just needed to pour myself into the world and just be a normal, very ordinary teenage girl going through the experiences of life. And I pulled away from that.
Just tell me what, because we're getting a bit of static on the line. Just tell me what the message wrote out. "You're too much with us." Is that what you said?
Yes, me, is too much with us.
She is too much with us. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, because you have to have, we are here not to escape
physical life.
We are here to learn and grow and explore. And so, personally speaking, I can look back now that I'm at the ripe age of 64, and now
you look good.
I can look back and think, yes, I really needed to get my feet in the mud for a while there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably, what my daughter does. I remember she very clearly as a young child, she was watching The Matrix, and there's a scene where they offer 2 pills. One you will remember who you are, and one you will forget and just be and she was screaming out to take the pill that would make her forget that she was connected to something else. And I looked at her and I thought, this is a message, not to have any conversations with her about what I'm exploring and receiving, but to let her be third dimensionally focused, very much third dimensionally focused. And I think she still rebels against, because she's in her early 20s, but there'll come a time when she'll want to know more. And it's interesting. So you were primed to receive her because you already had that open channel, because I know a lot of people are seeking that open channel, especially people that come to me in sessions. How can I speak to my dead relatives, or be more connected to source energy, or to my guides, especially my guides, they ask, and have that guidance. So you had that from a young age from your mother, spiritual guidance, but you also had it from your own team. Did you feel
I did. Yes, I did. I had a very close connection with, I would be just swept up in a state of ecstasy, even as a young child, in reference to in my mind, to God. Just the pureness and the love of God was so real to me. Yeah. And then I also had beings that I communicated with as a young child and played with and could see.
Wow.
But then after it closed down, I went into, I never completely lost it. I had many experiences, lots of premonition type dreams. I had a lot of visitations from people that I knew who passed, a family member who passed or a friend who passed would come communicate with me, and a lot of knowings ahead of time of things. So it never really went away, but I have 4 daughters, I have grandchildren, so I've been very busy with a very practical life.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But when this happened, I took care of my mother for 20 months when she got sick. She had cancer, and she's very dynamic and healthy until then. And as we approached her passing, and then at her passing, And every instant since her passing, which has been about 6.5 years now,
Yeah.
everything transformed and everything opened back up.
For you personally.
Opened the channel to the communication,
Yeah.
opened back up. And it's just a journey, a nonstop state of awareness now.
You have a beautiful open channel, because I have a channel. I don't know if it's as open as yours. Definitely not, but it's a good channel. I can feel when someone's got a good channel or not a good channel. You know what I mean? I get a bit like when I write what you've received. When I read what you've written, I think, wow, I wish my channel was that open.
I think that quite literally, I think that my mother and I are such close teammates that we're sort of ended up interchanging a bit.
Yeah.
When she passed away, I felt something within me literally leave the earth.
Yeah.
And I never really knew what was going on until all this started. And I realized, I think an aspect of my being, because we have many aspects to the soul, just like we have multiple changes.
You and your mother are from the same oversoul, definitely. And it's something that you talk about. Look, I had some epiphanies just reading in the last day, the second book, of things that I've already, because I know that when I was a young girl exploring my spirituality, who am I? I went to a course and they were saying, the name of my higher self is Doris or Fred or Nathaniel or whatever. And I was looking for a single, entity as a higher self. And my team, my mob said to me, that's not who we are. We're a stream of consciousness. So my higher self is a collective. It's not my soul that is me, you know what I mean? Like a higher version of me.
Yeah.
It's a collective of many. And I've always known that about me, but people don't speak about the higher self like that. It's like we're these singular blobs, and we have this singular blob that's another, higher aspect of us. But in fact, I think Seth coined it the oversoul. So and in this time of great shift, more than one aspect of our soul is incarnating, and we can come in. So, they talk about soulmate. It's like your soul or your team or your group or your soul family. There are just so many different names for it,
Right.
And so within a family or within a community, you can have so many aspects of yourself in physical form. I think that's what you're talking about, like you and your mother are one oversoul.
Perhaps one, but it actually, I had intended to send you the book 3 also, because I wanted to talk about something in it, and I will go ahead and do that now. But I want to point out, everything in book 2, 3, and 4 are mentioned. Every bit of it is mentioned somewhere in book 1. And I didn't know that until as I went on, and I would read back at different parts, and I would think, there might be one little phrase or one sentence in book 1 about something that is just hinted at, and then it's fully fleshed out in the other books. It's like the most incredible planned set of material, the way it all connects.
Mm-hmm.
But in book 4, it points out what is said in book 3, it points out what is said in the other 2 books, hinted at in the other 2 books. That just like our brain has multiple purposes, and right now we're using the language part of our brain mostly, and we're using the visual and the hearing, not so much the kinesthetic movement, but at any given time, different aspects of our soul, if you think of our soul as one whole being, with many, many skills, aspects, talents, many different aspects are doing different things. Just like our brain right now is doing many different things, and our heart is beating without us telling it to, and all our internal organs are working without us telling them to. So an aspect of our being will enter the earth, and it's usually one that has something specific to do and also something that they want to develop. Like a very weak aspect may decide to come in, because just like our brain we take it to a remedial math course because we're weak in math and we want to drill it.
Yes.
And we go to advanced English because we're good in English, you know. But different aspects will do different things. And yes, more than one aspect can come to the earth at the same time.
Yes.
If that's necessary, if we choose that.
Yeah.
But
You know,
the greater part of us is always really on the other side, if you
Yeah.
were. There's only part of us here to begin with.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting as you speak, I'm thinking about as a young girl, and a lot of young people grapple with this, wanting to do so many things and feeling like I wanted to be a dancer, I wanted to be a painter, I wanted to be a personal assistant, like wanting to explore, a singer, I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to, like a lot of creative stuff, I was creative, but feeling like, and exploring all of them, but feeling like I'd already done them, I was already doing them, but which one to pick, so I knew that I was here to teach and here to expand this consciousness and here to support those who are expanding it. But it's kind of like I want to do all those other things, but there are parts of me that are already doing it. There
are parts of us that are already doing it.
Yeah.
And we have done them already in some other lives. And there's so many strands of possibility that are always going on at the same time.
Yeah.
An aspect of us are, when we feel so strongly drawn to something, it very often is because part of our essence is elsewhere doing that. Yeah. You may be this incredible ballerina right now on the stage somewhere, and you feel that, or it may be going on in another dimension entirely, but you feel it. But that was comforting to me when that came through in this book, because it helped me to understand some of those frustrations. I didn't do that, or if I'd gone this direction, I could have done that with my life. Mm-hmm. And I realized,
I'm doing it.
I have done it, and part of me is doing it, or part of my team is doing it. And sometimes when you have teammates in other parts of the world doing all kinds of amazing services for humanity, you feel you're supposed to be there. Yeah. Why am I thinking about an orphanage in China?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe your teammate is there and you just have that connection.
Yeah, definitely.
It never stops.
Just fixing a few technical things there. Look, I wanted to, at the first book, I just want to read this because this is the crux of all of the books. It says this at the very beginning: you are not alone. You are not really even functioning as one person. Nobody is. For you are a member of a team, a spiritual team that is as close to you as breathing, and I am part of your team. So that's the first thing that she said to you. But I mean, really, that's a message to all of humanity. No one's functioning as one person, that we're all a part of a team. And it was so beautiful, because I think when you see people like me or channels or anyone that talks about their guides or their mob or their team, people look at these people and think they're special in some way, that they've got that access, and maybe they've got a guardian angel, or do I have an angel, or do I have a guide, or is my mother with me? Many of the questions, and every being on the planet is a part of this team, this spiritual team, this mob, this collective, this higher consciousness, this connection to source.
Yeah, it's really a very spiritually intimate relationship that we have with our team. These are not vague, distant, ghostly beings. These are people we have known from the beginnings of eternity, that we have worked with. We can think of it as some of us are in the lookout tower and some of us are the boots on the ground. Yeah. And the lookout tower has the big perspective, and they're giving direction and guidance to those on the ground. And then we switch places. And we're never without each other. We encounter each other on Earth. And sometimes we encounter each other for just a moment or for a very short time, because our purpose for each other is to activate the spiritual DNA in one another. We have physical DNA that gets activated along the way. Somebody wakes something up, we get inspired, we get educated, we get made aware along the way of special things that gives us, our purpose in life. And the same thing happens spiritually, because we have spiritual DNA, just like we have physical DNA. So all of it is very intimate. It's very real. It's as if we're sitting around a conference table with a host of beings that we love, who adore us. We adore them. Some of them are hilarious. Some of them are scientific. Some of them are poetic. Some of them are the engineers in the group. Mm-hmm. Every team has every talent available. They're all different kinds. And I experienced in these books, book one is my mother's voice from beginning to end. Once book two began, I noticed a shift. I noticed that I was receiving information that sounded medical or scientific or more like a sociologist. Yeah. The tone changed. From chapter to chapter, there are differences that I didn't see in book one. Yeah. And then she explained to me, because I was so afraid and so closed and had stopped the automatic writing and was afraid to communicate all those years, that until I recognized her and opened up to her without any fear, now the rest of the team was able to come in and talk. And that's why in 2 and 3 and 4, there's a lot more information of the different sort, a different energy. Maybe you recognized it when you were reading.
Yeah, because I have that experience. And I know, I got a mob thing, I'm very sort of flippant about it, just call it the mob, because I like to make this stuff easy and, it's not something, you don't have to sit and and in a dark room or join some spiritual church or anything. You can just talk to your team, your mob, be really easy about it. And what you were saying was reminding me, often our team members come in to meet us physically for a short period of time, because they're not here to live out a long physical life. And it could be a baby that dies after a couple of days, or a child after a few years, 2 years, 5 years. And because they've met us physically, like you had that experience with your mother, you have that connection, which allows you to have that broader connection with your teammates. So, often that sort of experience of having a child that dies is just saying, I'm going to come meet you physically, and then we're going to continue our relationship as we always have from this perspective, but you'll have that intimate relationship with me from that physical perspective, that you'll recognize when you reach for me in my non-physical home. So they meet us physically and activate us, spur that memory. Because you were busy having kids and grandkids, and you were busy. You've been busy. I've been very, very busy, as many people are. I feel like I've had 10 lifetimes in one. Yeah. I always love to read out of the books, because when I just talk about the books, I am truly a student of them myself. I am the scribe, not the originator of the material. And so I'm just a person talking about it, really. But if I read the books, then we hear it firsthand. Look, I know, and I've written down so many stuff I wanted to interview. Like to tell you the truth, what I've been doing is I've been reading them. I've been copying and pasting it all over Facebook and saying, these are from these books, like, and just little paragraphs. It's just too good. It's just
I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook team book page.
Oh, I didn't know that, because I looked. I couldn't find it. Yeah.
I wonder. It says. Well, I have to look at how it's titled. I think it says the team, A Mother's Wisdom from the Other Side, books 1, 2, and 3. Is what I think it says.
But here's
And that's what I do. I put up excerpts from the books.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I'll share that. But here's the thing that I love personally, because I talk about, as a teacher of deliberate creation, showing people how to flow their energy and create their world. I talk about thought form, and when I work with people, I'm working with people's thoughts. And, you know, Esther Hicks, who's one of my favorite teachers, is coined it in many different ways. She coins it as, she's got a new way of saying it, moving up discs. She calls them discs, you know, as you sort of step on a different thought disc. And I've been calling them forms. And in the book, they're coined as spheres, vibrational spheres. And it actually says in the book, from my perspective on the other side, I see wonderful universal systems at work, which I believe is one of the most important things for you to grasp. And I agree. Because that's what I do. It's one of the most important things for us to grasp. She goes on, or you go on, both of you go on. The concept will help you better understand why it is that humanity experiences such exaggerated extremes of well-being and negativity, both on a personal and collective level. It will also help you comprehend the method through which team members align themselves with one another. Do you want to expand on that? I mean, I could read from the books, but it's just fabulous and beautiful and wonderful.
Well, yes, I have the same chapter open here in front of me. I think to describe just a little bit more, she says that these vibrational spheres can be envisioned as enormous bubbles,
which is that's how I envision
that are floating. And she said they're very real. They're not imaginary. If we had the eyes to see them, we would see them everywhere. And all of us make deposits into these spheres of deposits of love, deposits of fear, deposits of anger, deposits of hope. And then all of us draw from those same spheres when we enter into a particular state of mind.
Vibration,
so when you meditate and you go all of a sudden soaring into bliss, you are not just feeling your own bliss. You are connecting to a vibrational sphere that holds all the bliss that's ever existed in time. And you're pulling out of it. And that's why it's a tidal wave of bliss. The same thing happens when people generate rage, war, fear, violence. They can't, and you'll hear people say, I can't believe that this rage came over me and that I said or I did this thing. And it's because they have linked themselves up with a vibrational sphere of anger. And it is a tidal wave. It is more than just your anger. Addictions, it is more than just your addiction and your craving. You are connecting with the entire sphere of that kind of energy. And for me, what was so important is it helped me to understand, to be more forgiving of myself for mistakes of emotional extremes that I had experienced in my lifetime. I couldn't understand. Outbursts of rage or anger or whatever, from where did that come from? How could I do that? How could that person say that? How could that person be so hateful and violent? It helped me be more compassionate with others and with myself. And then it gave me this beautiful image of these spheres of love and hope all around us that we can literally drink from.
Plug into.
Yes, and then everything that we offer of that nature goes into those spheres for others to use. And it says somewhere in these books where if you heal from a great trauma in life, perhaps we hear so much about sexual abuse, to heal from sexual abuse, to go through that process that sometimes we don't want to do. We want to push it aside. We don't want to go there and review and do the hard work of healing a trauma. But if we do, it becomes available. That healing energy becomes available through those vibrational spheres for everybody who's seeking the same kind of healing.
Mm-hmm.
For every person out there who was suffering that pain and seeking that healing, your healing is held in that bubble, and they are able to draw on it. And to me, that was just so motivating,
Yes.
to do and to give and to be as much as I can, because it's for everybody. Everything is so collective.
Exactly. And it really explains, because, in spiritual New Age community, we talk about being one. We are one. We are one. We are one source. We all come from, we are one. But that concept, when we're physically focused, individually, is a really hard concept to grasp.
It is.
So understanding that whatever you experience, not only do you give it to yourself, but you give it to others. It explains how that happens. So, you have to be at a vibrational match to that sphere or that energy or that bubble. I remember I used to be married to a man who was a Hare Krishna for years. And in the Hare Krishna religions, they talk about, he read in the books Conversation with God, all religion is based in fear, and he thought that just is not my religion. And then he was telling me one day, not only do they believe in one hell, they believe in planets of different hells, and each planet has a different sort of sin attached to it. And it sort of reminded me of, these spheres are almost like planets, like the Hare Krishnas talked about different planets of bliss and planets of hell. They're literally thought forms. They're thought forms, but they're real. But we can't perceive them with our physical eyes because they're energy, they're vibrational, but they're real and tangible, and we feel it. We feel when we're plugged in by how we feel emotionally. So when we're experiencing ecstasy, tumbles and tumbles of ecstasy, keeps perpetuating the momentum, or that tumble of rage or hate or depression. A lot of people talk about depression. Our medical doctors say it's a disease, but it's just you're plugged into that vibration and it's feeding you and you're feeding it. It's like this symbiotic relationship between you and this planet of depression.
Yes, and it also all these vibrational spheres that we connect to, it's energy. And of course the energy that we take in and put forth and then take in, I think of we're all drinking of it, it does affect our body. Yes. And our body immediately reacts to those vibrations. And these endorphins and serotonin and all those things in the brain that are depleted during depression, they'll measure them and say this person in clinical depression is lacking the production in the brain of this hormone. That is directly coming from, it's not to say that it's not happening in the body, or that you don't have pain, or that you aren't clinically depressed, because it does become a medical condition. The two do become connected. The body and the medical condition of the body relates to the energy we are receiving.
Well, in a way, our body is a physical manifestation of the dominant vibrational force that we're carrying, the dominant sphere, that's where it's a manifestation of that. It's all energy and information, and we're just perceiving it as physical or non-physical because of the limitation of the cones and rods in our eyes and the apparatus of the ears and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to get you to do with the hair again, just away from away from the little speaker.
Next time I'll remember.
That's okay, because this is on audio only too. So when we've got visual, we can sort of get distracted by the quality of audio because we can see the person, but it's on radio as well. So how long after your mother had transitioned did you actually hear her?
I think the exact number is 19 days.
Right.
19 days. My daughter, named Autumn, had gone to my mother while she was in the last 2 weeks of her life and had said to her, Nana, I hope when you get to heaven you can send me a baby because I haven't been able to get pregnant. And my mother said, I think I can help you with that, dear. Those were her words. And about 2 weeks later, my daughter called me and said, 2 weeks after my mother passed, my daughter called me and said, it's happened, I'm pregnant.
Wow.
Well, I had to pull over on the side of the road. I was so thrilled to hear this. And I jumped on an airplane as soon as I could because something just told me I had to just put my physical arms around my daughter. She lived in New York.
Yeah.
So during the ride to New York, I was looking out the window and thinking of her, looking at the beautiful, the clouds. It's so heavenly, such a sight. I love to fly. And I just thought in my mind, Mother, is there any distance for you? And my eyes were kind of filled up with tears. I just felt her essence existing in such a field of beauty like I was seeing. But it was like, is there any distance for you? And I heard her voice say, not exactly, not the way you perceive distance. And I've got the exact words written down in here I should read it, but I thought, am I hearing her out loud or is it in my head? It felt like it was out loud and in my head.
Yeah.
And so I started asking questions about, where are you? Tell me about this. Tell me about this dimension. And I could just hear her. So I grabbed a piece of paper and I just started writing down everything she was saying. And I am going to read a little bit of the book to describe how it was. At first, I felt like I was having a personal conversation with her, and we talked about things pertinent to my own life.
Yeah.
And then the topics branched off into a more universal theme. I was not alarmed or frightened. In fact, I was thrilled, comforted, and excited. Looking back, I suppose I thought it would be a one-time encounter on the plane that would end when we landed in New York. But as you can see from the text in these books, it wasn't a one-time encounter. For the next 3 weeks, and that's for book one, I was bombarded with a series of conceptual realizations that were accompanied by Mother's voice, giving detailed explanations, examples, analogies, methods, affirmations, and prayers. Most of the information came unbidden, flooding my being when I was otherwise occupied or in a relaxed state of mind, rather than when I tried to seek it. The experience of hearing her voice can best be compared to what it's like when you hear a song in your head. The music's lead singer, backup singer, lyrics, and all. Rarely do we question how music flows through our minds in such a way. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's a common event. Mm-hmm. I can only say that in the same manner, my mother's voice sounded as real and felt as natural to me as it had been when she was alive. So it continued and continued, and I was just constantly writing down. And along with it came the most incredible energy. My body felt like I was a young, vibrant woman. All aches and pains vanished. Mm-hmm. I would stay up all night writing and wake up at 6 a.m. ready to go do whatever I needed to. Mm-hmm. I was infused for several years with this kind of energy and this kind of lit up feeling. It's mellowed now. I wish I could hang on to that every second of the day, but probably the physical body would just fizzle out. I'm
thinking about, like high gurus that live their existence like that, sort of plugged into that vibration or inside that sphere, however you want to say it. But I experienced this when I first started going through menopause. I was sweating quite profusely. I was going through the hot flushes, and I didn't think that I would have those symptoms, but I did. Yeah. And it was kind of torture for a while, because they would come on one after the other, and I'd be like so exhausted from the heat all the time, and I was determined not to take, hormone replacement therapy. I thought it'll pass. But one night I was asked to come and do a talk to a group of Jewish women, actually. Anyway, and I thought, well, this would be interesting to talk about spiritual matters to a group of... Anyway, during the whole 2.5 hours that I stood and spoke, or 3 hours, I was in that state of, I had no physical pain or symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was just constant at that time, at that very beginning. And I remember thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to be living like that so that you don't have those physical pain? I don't experience that, but wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
You listening? Team,
yes.
You listening?
And I'm sure that we have lifetimes where we become ascetic cave dwellers, and we do stay in a perpetual state of connection.
Yeah.
And then we have other lifetimes where we're very active and we're out in the world. That's why there's all of this, what's wrong, what's right, there's so many ways to live, and there's validity and value and beauty and wonder in every life, in every approach to life that a person chooses. But yes, that bliss and that energy was over the top, and it was something given to me to get this job done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I wrote for a long, long time.
And
I should get better track of how many months or years it was.
And you're still compiling the last book. But you said in I think book one, as you were writing, which I found interesting, because I can relate to so much that's in the books, because of the stage of life that I'm in, which I find really beautiful. That's why I say that they're not for everybody. You'd have to have lived a certain amount. And they're the sort of books that you come back to over and over and over again and get just as much the 10th time, the 15th time, the 100th time you've read the books, because there's so much. But you said that when you were writing, you felt this sensation in your third eye. And you said that if you didn't feel it, you didn't write. And it was like an activation that you were like plugged in, connected, and like downloading. And if you didn't feel that sensation...
If I was writing and it faded, I noticed that the words felt a bit empty, or the message wasn't as clear, and so I would immediately back off. And that sensation was present at all times to some degree for several years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Day and night, without exception. Mm-hmm. Now it comes at different times, but it doesn't stay like that.
Yeah.
I think it was simply to get a job done.
Yeah.
They just found a vessel. It was like, okay, let's make hay while the sun shines, She is open. Her mother just came. Mother was just in the conference. We have this description in book one of this conference. I'd like to read a little bit more, if that's okay.
Sure.
It says, you are never operating solo. On the contrary, you are a representative of your team, and they are filtering information to you as you are filtering your impressions and activities back to them. Imagine a representative of a company being sent out to a conference. His head is full of facts and figures, concrete goals, and mile-high dreams, some of them confidential and some ready to be made known. He has a mission to accomplish, and the hopes of the business are riding on him. His supervisors and co-workers have prepared him. He has weaknesses too, which both he and the others are aware of. Before and after the conference, he is in touch with the team. But when he stands up to deliver his material to the audience, it's up to him to be the strongest representative he can be, transmitting what he's taught, has been taught to the best of his ability. This analogy reflects the basic structure of how souls unite into teams for a variety of missions. And it talks about how they return with this information to the team. And the team lives the person's life over again through the life review with them. And they gather all the wisdom. It's all shared. It's all shared. And in that way, every team member expands and learns and grows. They don't have to literally do every single thing themselves, because they take the information, just like you coming back from a conference. So this idea that we have to come back to the earth endlessly and learn every single thing and do everything, actually, we do it collectively. Others can even bear a burden for us, just like we do in real life.
Absolutely.
We can take on karma for us. We can take on karma for them. It's a collective gift to one another going on.
And I'm just thinking, animals do it too, because they're part of our team. At Christmas, I was with a friend. I sort of freaked him out, an acquaintance really, a friend of a friend, and he had this little dog that had died. And he was a sort of nice man, but he was a bit of a grumpy old cow. Anyway, the little dog had got cancer and died, and he was very upset. I think the little dog was the closest thing, and the thing, you know, the person, the being, the only being he'd ever really loved in his life. And my guide said to him through me, it freaked him out, that little dog took on his cancer and manifested, took on his karma and manifested the cancer for him, like he did that for him. So instead of, kind of freaked this poor man out, because he wasn't really into it, but it just blurted out of my mouth. Sometimes I can't stop it. And, but, you know, as it blurted out of my mouth, I'm thinking, wow, animals can do that. So the little dog wasn't worried that it got sick and left its body. It had no judgment about that. But so that this sort of man's plugged into those spheres of, you know, sort of aggression and jealousy and all that sort of stuff that tortured him during his life, and why he couldn't have a relationship and all that sort of thing. You know, that little dog manifested that illness that would have normally been manifested by him. So it was really interesting, I thought.
And this was a reading that you were doing with him?
No, it was a social occasion, but it came out of my mouth. I didn't mean it.
Just came through.
And the poor man, he was very silent for a while, and I said, I didn't mean, because it just comes out sometimes that I can't stop it, because it just downloads. But, you know, as it comes out of me, I learn, like the same with you. As it came through you, you're learning, like, wow. That's why I read these books and I think, gee, your channel is amazing. Like, the information coming through is amazing.
When I would receive the material, it penetrated me. I got it. I understood it. I could feel it in every part of my being as it came through. Now sometimes, but that clear intensity and that knowledge would fade. You know, I'd go into my day-to-day life, and I can't say I ever went back to the life I had before. I'm a very, very changed person.
Really.
Very.
So let's explore that, because I think anyone who reads these books would, if you really take on this information and really live it, it's all very well reading it. It changes you. How's it changed you?
It did. Well, at first it changed me very physically.
Really?
Like I said, I was healed. I had no pain. I had all the physical troubles that I have, which neck and back disc problems and migraines and things of that nature. Energy level vanished. I was a completely healed person, and I have never been as weak again as I was previous, but I'm not as strong as I was when all that was going on. However, that was the first thing that happened. But I would say before the experience, I had times of depression. I have never had a moment of depression since. I had issues with some anger, some lingering judgments, traumas in my life that had left me a little bitter and angry, and I would work with it, and I would strive not to be that way, but it would come through in a variety of ways, like those emotions do. They manifest somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
It vanished. It truly vanished. I have been completely liberated of anger, of bitterness, of unforgiveness. It simply evaporated. I remember telling my sister when it first started happening, I said, you know what? I think, my nickname, by the way, is Frankie, okay? And I said, I'm not Frankie anymore. And she said, well, this doesn't sound good, I think maybe we should get you a counselor, since Mother died. I said, no, Frankie, the Frankiness of me has gone away. She's not there. And I found myself talking about her as another person at times.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize that really what happened was an aspect of me that had led this life left, and a new aspect of me, a different aspect of my own soul, entered to use this body to get this done. And so I truly have become, in so many ways, a different being. Another big change that came along with it, and I didn't realize it at first, but it started happening more and more, was spontaneous ability to read as a medium.
Yes. Yes.
In the most vivid and accurate ways. So what has happened is if it's simply by word of mouth. I never do anything. I don't put myself out there as a medium.
No.
But people in the community and elsewhere have contacted me for readings. And the first time it happened was in a restaurant when I was waiting for food to go to take out, and there was a big group of young women having a birthday party for somebody. They were all in their 20s. And I was just watching them. I was very relaxed, and they were just so happy and pretty. And all of a sudden, it came information about each one of them, past lives, one's grandmother, one's father. And I did something I've never done in my life. I walked over to them and I said, I feel compelled to speak to you young ladies because this information's coming in. Well, there were about 10 of them, 2 of them left. They wanted nothing to do with it. And the rest of them sat and talked with me. And it was so amazing. We were all in tears with the beauty of the information that came through for them. So that continued to happen. That was another big change. And then people that I had, the more people learned about this, they made me aware of near-death experiences. I had vaguely heard of near-death experiences, but since this has happened, I've become exposed. That's how I found you. I have started watching things because here I'm finding people, they're saying the same thing. They experience the same thing. It's so helpful.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a near-death experience, but maybe I did. Because whatever happened, it was the same effect.
Yeah.
I hear people say, well, I had this experience and my life changed. I was healed.
Mm-hmm.
My bitterness was gone, or my, lingering anger was gone, or I found a new talent, or I became spiritually intuitive. So the effects were the same as the person who's had a near-death experience, actually.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And often when people watch near-death experiences, they say, how can I have the effect without the experience? I don't want to be hit by a truck or blown up in a bomb blast or die in an operation or get sick, to have this experience. And for you, that's how it happened for you. For me, it was just applying what I was taught, both through books and through my own connection. Because as I applied what I read in a book, I started getting more connected. And then the information, and then was teaching me, but you have to apply it. You can't just read about it. You have to actually
Yes.
Do the work. You have to feel the emotion. You have to forgive people. You have to go physically to those people and say, even if they've beaten you up, like my father beat me up as a kid and I had this, I went to him and apologized, because I'm the creator of my reality and I'm responsible for that as well. So taking on that responsibility that I've created all of it and really, really living that. And that's when you take, actually, there's a whole thing in the book about that responsibility too. I can't remember which one it is.
I think it's called Nothing to Forgive.
Nothing to
chapter called
forgive.
Nothing to Forgive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
Mm-hmm.
the pre-forgiveness exercise each day to pre-forgive before you just send pre-forgiveness out in front of you.
I'm going to read a bit I've got written down here.
Oh, you've got it down. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
As pre-forgiveness becomes more frequent in your experience, you will begin to sweep clean not only your present and future, but everything in your past as well. Please understand that I am using those words past, present, and future as you use them, not as they manifest on the other side. This useful appearance of time is provided so that while you are upon the earth, you may have a chance to observe and slow down patterns of cause and effect. In reality, as you purify the present moment, changes also occur in what you perceive as your past. This is because the essence of everything in your past is with you in the present, in either a healed or an unhealed form. Therefore, there is no way to make a change in the present that does not involve what you think of as the past, for that matter, what you think of as the future.
One of the chapters I often go back to and read is Nothing to Forgive.
Nothing to forgive.
Because and it's that's where you read that from, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We want to encounter others and excuse them in advance of any debt owed to us, real or imagined. Because if we do not, we're going to have to encounter that vibration again and again. You can imagine it like you're shooting out a ray and it sticks to the other person,
Mm-hmm.
Of animosity or judgment or lack of forgiveness or something. We want to excuse all from any debt to us so that we also have no debt to them, so that we do not have any entanglements of that sort with that person or anyone like them, ever. It needs to be read because I'm not able to say it as clearly as it is written. But what you said is elaborated on all throughout the books about the past, the present, and the future.
Mm-hmm.
That the past is literally transformed when we change our present. And
Yeah.
of course we know we change our future.
Yeah.
But most people don't realize you are changing the past event. The actual vibratory event itself is lifted to another strand of possibility of what could have possibly had. The possibility that you never were hit by your father exists in the perfect, in the mind of God, so to speak. That possibility always exists. So when you heal and when you forgive, you lift that past vibration up as if it never occurred, until it meets, the event is lifted up so that it meets that strand of possibility. So it meets its highest potential, which is that the violence did not occur. So we transform past events. We truly do.
I know it's hard to wrap our linear brains around that, but
It is.
I've gone blank now, but yeah, it's extraordinary. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Look, years ago in the Seth books, I read that all your power is in the now. So the Seth books talk about the nature of your personal reality and how we create your reality. And these were the first books I started reading before I started getting my own downloads and really applying this wisdom. And my nose is running. Interestingly enough, often in these interviews it happens, and one of my mediums that I interviewed said it's just energy running, and I said, yeah, it's running through my nose. It makes my nose drip. Anyway, it says in the Seth books, you know, all your power is in the now. There is only the now. And that really, that pre-forgiveness, it really explains, it really talks about the power being in the now. Mm-hmm. To not only forgive the past, but to forgive the future. Like to forgive anyone that's ever going to cut you off in traffic or lie to you or rip you off or, you know, like.
Pre-forgive.
It's just, and there's somewhere in the books where I've written so much down, where you just start to actually live in that state that we were talking about, that blissful state of no pain and expanded awareness, like the gurus do. When you apply this,
application.
There's nothing to forgive. No one can harm me. No one can smite me. You relinquish fear, because fear is like, what if I get ripped off, I lose my house, I lose my job, my partner leaves me, my sibling dies. You know, what if that fear? It's like nothing touches you because you're in the state of, I don't know, the third dimensional reality is not really who you are. It's just the game you're playing. It's just the stage you're acting on, and you can't be touched. You just touch that part of you that can't be touched, and you live through that.
You know, it says here, when your true goal is to neither receive nor inflict any wounding, and by doing so to minimize another person's connection to the obligation of recompense, then you become a conscious participant in the mission of healing humanity's collectively accumulated emotional ensnarement. When Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," his absolute refusal to condemn or retaliate against his oppressors relieved those people of half the burden they would normally have to carry for their actions, and left Jesus none whatsoever. If, on the other hand, he had tallied up every injustice and recited this list of offenses to those around him, he would have entangled himself in the cords of revenge and remained bound to those individuals or similar situations until he had no more animosity left. And it goes on to say, if we are bound, if we bind ourselves with this kind of back and forth of lack of forgiveness until we have none left, why not jump ahead and just have none left?
Exactly.
So that you don't even have to go through it, and you don't have to put anyone else through it.
Yeah.
And you're free.
You're free.
You're free. I know it's much easier said than done. I understand that. But what you're saying about application is the key.
But that's the journey, you know, like applying the knowledge is why we're here, right? I mean, we wouldn't be in this physical body if we weren't here to apply what we come to know. And the application is the fun of the ride. I mean, reading about it, you know, that's interesting, but it's not until you apply it that things really get juicy. Now, because we're running out of time, I could probably speak to you for about 50 hours, but from whence you've come, chapter 2. So I read one a few weeks ago, and I've been perusing 2 over the last 24 hours. And so book 2 is all in my head at the moment. I would say read all of them 100 times each. I wanted to sort of talk about some of the things in this chapter, because this chapter I love. So I'm going to read from it. And so Teddy is saying, your mum is saying, I share with you now a set of ideas that may be different from what you are familiar with. And as soon as I read that line, I'm like, oh, good, something new. Oh, goody. You may find you need to suspend some familiar and deeply rooted impressions in order to be able to grasp what is being said in this segment. For this reason, we do say, let truth be free. That which rings true for you, may you embrace. That which does not, please gently release. Beautiful words, and I would say that at the beginning of every interview, I should. First, I ask you to suspend the idea that you've come to Earth to grow. Rather, only to grow. Sorry. I ask you to consider that you have come to Earth to assist with the evolution of the consciousness of the planet. And in that process of doing so, you grow. In other words, you are here to primarily to assist. And the byproduct of that assistance is your own personal growth.
Yes.
That is just beautiful.
Yes. Isn't
like
it
I'm not even here for my own evolution. I'm here for her.
Yeah. We truly, this is why the collectiveness of it is so important and is so empowering, because it makes you want to grow. It makes you want to serve. It makes you want to evolve, because it's not for you.
It's not.
And our lives can become so selfish, can become so focused on, what we can get out of it, even in spiritual matters. We can bring our ego and our selfishness right into our spiritual life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The growth is a byproduct of what we do to assist the world.
And
the physical earth and the inhabitants of the earth.
I spoke to one of my favorite, Garnet Schulhauser, who travels throughout the cosmos in his astral body with his spirit guide, and then writes down what he actually experiences. And he spoke to Mother Gaia, and she said that she is going through this evolutionary shift, and it's her time to ascend. And until the beings on this planet meet her vibration, she can't. And so so that our evolutionary, our spiritual ascension, or our awareness is actually, it's the same message, but just said differently. But she did say, unless we do, if we keep fighting and killing each other and rape and pillaging the earth, she is going to kick us off, because at some point she's going to send, if we don't come with her, she's just going to kick us off, the human body, she's just going to kick us all off. Yeah. But that really affirms that we're, our spiritual evolution, our forgiving people that have hurt us, is really about helping her. It's really about her. Yeah. And not polluting the earth, and the invention, inventing things that clean up the pollution, and inventing new ways of plastic, going to the supermarket, instead of all this junk that we buy that we put in the bin, that mother of invention is actually it's all about her. It's all about her.
Right. The service. If we can shift our thinking to the joy of serving the planet,
the greater good,
one another, the joy in it. So often people approach that idea of I have to give up something, or it's going to be me. It's for the collective. It's for the collective. There's a chapter somewhere called The Collective.
I don't think I've got to that one. I'm going to just a couple more. This I like, from whence will you've come. The next one. Next, I ask you to suspend the idea that you are thrown into a circle of suffering until you earn the right to be free of it.
Right.
Replace that concept with this one. You choose to come here. There were many other planets and dimensions to choose from, but this was your choice, and therefore it became your assignment. You have committed to serve this planet for a period of time, and together with your team, you are intrinsically involved in deciding when you have accomplished what you set out to do. So many spiritual, religions or ideas of thought talk about this endless cycle of karma.
Yeah.
And so many spiritual people, when they wake up to the beauty of who we are beyond this third dimension, say, you know, we're in this prison planet, we're in this, I'm not going to come back, this is this terrible place. You know, I hear this perpetuated on the net all the time and in my circles. And my guides have always said to me, from your broader perspective, from your soul's perspective, you chose, and you chose willingly, and you will probably choose again. For from that perspective, you see the benefit of all the struggles and the trauma that we go through. You see that as growth and not as punishment. And
Right.
that's why I loved that, you know, because it just speaks to what I know. And I think that a lot of, well, all the information really speaks to what you know. It speaks to that core of what your soul knows. And
it activates your spiritual DNA. You recognize it, you know. It's like, oh, I recognize that. Yes.
Yeah. And then she says the next one, next, I ask you to suspend the idea that you are in any way a weak, struggling spark of divinity. Replace that with with this one. You are fully formed divine being who has agreed to enter this plane to stimulate and bring under control the emotional, physical, and intellectual aspects of the body to which you are connected. You are doing this because you know that by activating higher and higher levels of development, first in the body and then in its immediate circle of influence, and finally throughout society, you are helping to accelerate the evolution of consciousness in the planet. So she's just expanding on that first sentence, that that we take on this physical form with its mind and emotions connected to it. And sometimes it, you know, it can feel like it's out of control, the emotions, but we've actually taken on this sort of wild experiment to sort of harness it.
Yes, it's a workout, and it's like a workout gym for the soul, you know, because you talk about application. You want to apply. You want the muscles to grow, and we use the friction supplied by this emotional dimension to do that. There's several mentionings in the books of imagine a surfer on the surfboard out on the waves, and if the water is perfectly still, well, she may just love it for a while and lie there, look up at the clouds and enjoy the birds and that, but she's waiting for the wave. You know, it's the wave that she gets to practice her spiritual skills on, her physical skills on, her surfing skills. And it's the same thing for us. It's pointed out somewhere in some chapter that if we can try to look at the events in our day from this observation point, join them a little more in the lookout tower and look at the events of our days like a watcher, like an observer, we will see that we can, and keep a sense of humor. When somebody cuts you off in traffic or you're frustrated, this is my opportunity to use my spiritual skills right here, right now. Look what I get to do. Look what I get to do in our personal events, and then in the social events. I mean, you know what we're going through over here in this country with our politics. What an opportunity.
What an opportunity.
To use our spiritual awareness.
Absolutely.
I had one of the readers of the books write me and say, what do I do? I'm so upset and angry at this man, Trump. What do I do? How do I apply it? And first, everyone is a soul in evolution. And what a remarkable planetary event that this particular person, who is a symbol of a collective state of consciousness,
Yes, yeah.
a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
He's connected to a certain sphere,
Which a lot of people are connected to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He is there for us to have the opportunity to look at. Oh, that's what that looks like.
That's what that looks like. Exactly.
And to radiate a deep and abiding desire for his enlightenment and his upliftment from the deepest and most sincere place within. Because only through his spiritual evolution can he lift anything else up.
Yeah.
There's no reason to attack. It only accentuates the same energy.
Exactly. It only perpetuates, accentuates, as you say, exactly the energy that you're fighting against. Exactly. I know. Exactly. Oh, there's so much to say.
We've run out of time.
I know. One of the things I posted on Facebook was something about judgment of people. There was something about I think it was in book 1. Jesus was talking and he was saying, or I think I can't remember how it goes, but something about how a lot have taken his name in vain and used it to place judgment on others, and the Christ consciousness teaches, radical acceptance and forgiveness and unity consciousness, and yet, but the line that really got me was, don't bother changing them, for they're a soul like any other soul that's evolving, and eventually they will come to that place. They will eventually get to that place of that knowing and understanding. And for me, who puts out this stuff on YouTube, I get a lot of religious people saying that I'm speaking to the devil and that I don't know Jesus and all that sort of stuff, because I'm not mentioning scripture from the Bible and I'm not doing that stuff. And, that was a great reminder that I don't have to retaliate or even try and teach them or try and enlighten them, because they'll get there. They'll find their own way, their own path. And if they're watching these videos, they'll get there. Why do they bother watching? If they want to just damn it with their sort of religious rhetoric.
Yeah. Well, most likely it's a combination of things, but part of it is their soul is attracting them to an alternative way of looking at things too.
Exactly.
But having said that about Donald Trump, I do want to say that I'm not in any way saying in the face of such an example that's put up there for us to look at of bigotry and so forth, we have to hold our torch even higher of, light in every possible moment, but do so without directing personal hatred and judgment at someone who seems to oppose our views so completely.
Yes, exactly. Hate never achieves anything, and judgment never achieves anything.
But but the world needs our light more than ever. There's a chapter, I think it's in book 3, called All Hands on Deck.
Oh, I love that. All hands on deck.
All hands on deck.
We talk about the grand shift, because I love putting these spiritual principles into really common language, and that just really did it for me. Like, Teddy says, right, this is the moment where all hands on deck, it's just that. And
it's in book 1. She says, one reason I'm able to do this right now, and it's being sponsored by the team, this project, is because now is an all hands on deck time for humanity and history.
Yes. I love that.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time.
It is a wonderful time. There's so much more to talk about in the books. As I say, we could talk for hours. And there was just one other thing that I read, I think this morning or last night, something about the physical structure of how our physical bodies came into be, which is fascinating. I'm not going to go into it, but
your mystical body,
how the DNA was formed and how we're evolving physically, and there's so much to read. And so, I'm not getting paid to promote the books, and when you write books, you usually don't make a lot of money, because that's another thing I get on the YouTube channels too. Oh, you're just promoting a book. You're not actually helping us or teaching us. It's like, we're sitting here doing this. We're not getting paid, right? But people are like, oh, you're just promoting some book. That's a lot. like, you know what? Yeah, I'm promoting a book, because you have to be able to read these books to actually get the full gist of what we're talking about, because there's so much in them, so much.
Well, the books, right now, they're only available as ebooks, these three books, because the hard copies have all sold out. And my intention is, when book 4 is finished, sometime this summer, June is my goal, I will print all 4, and they will be available again in paperback.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I read books, because I'm not the best reader. I was very dyslexic when I was young. Something that my team had designed for me to be more focused inward than on the intellect, so that I would sharpen up and develop those intuitive skills, which I've done, which has made me a better reader, actually. But still, I've got that lazy way of reading. So I actually get the computer to read me the books.
Oh, good, yeah.
Because I listen, I'm a good listener. So I enjoy listening. So it's like an audio. And so that's why when you have a Kindle book or an ebook, you can get the computer to read it to you. So that's the way I like to read books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing. Is it that kind of computerized sounding voice?
It is a bit computerized, but
a little bit.
I've chosen Karen. She has an Australian voice, funnily enough, and that is Karen.
Oh, good.
On my computer, it's funny. Frances, so wonderful to talk with you today. Thank you so much. That was something I was asking you before. Are there any study groups of the books?
We've had a couple here in Jacksonville that formed, and they formed on their own, but I would come as a guest sometimes and speak with them. I would like to have an online study group.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of one of my goals.
Let's do it. I'll help you do it.
I would love to do that. It's just time, with the 4th book coming out, and later in the year and next year, me planning to do some traveling and speaking about the books, because, I'm not a professional promoter in any way, so I haven't really done what some people do when they write a book, a lot of
promotion.
Forth and promotion, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been very focused on my family, my grandchildren.
Well, we'll get you down under to do some speaking. That'd be lovely.
I would love to come back. I was there in 2014. I'm a dual citizen. I love to tell everyone that, because I'm just so in love with Australia.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. But thank you so much, and we'll invite you to come in as a guest on the Inner Sanctum. They're the webinar that I put on. I've only been doing them once a month, and I'm feeling like I need to do them twice a month. I need to do them every week, really, where I teach and I invite a guest to come on and share their wisdom. So because I have the show, I have access to all these extraordinary people. So I pick my favorite teachers and I ask them to come on and as a guest, and we explore how you teach. And because I really believe that many voices, because I've had many voices teach me. I've had my inner voice, but I've had many outer voices, and your inner knowing knows which voice to pick. It knows what at the level of your understanding, what you want to hear right now, and what you can't hear today you might want to hear in a couple of years. And so it's interesting. So we'll get you to come on, but that'll be towards the end of the year, because I'm booked out until about October, November. So, that would be wonderful. I mean, we've talked about so many things. Maybe we could approach it a little bit more specific. Yeah. Well, people that come onto the Inner Sanctum. So it's a webinar, so people are all there. They have the opportunity to ask you questions, and we can explore these things more and really expand on what we've spoken about. So it's like a teaching, it's like a webinar series. It's not just an interview where you sit passively and watch us speaking. It's you get to be personally involved in the teachings. So it's like teaching online. I love it. It's fantastic all over the world.
You do. It's marvelous.
So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. And like I said, I just bask in listening to your Australian accent, because you know who it reminds me of.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
And remember, if you want to join up for the Inner Sanctum, it's by subscription. It's only 22 Australian dollars a month, which is like 15 American dollars. So it's not expensive at all, but it gives you access to me and my guests. So join up and please subscribe and like our channel and join us on social media, Facebook and Twitter and all those delicious places. Thanks again for being with us on ATP. Bye for now.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, blissful beings, go to karenswain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on karenswain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that's what you want to do.